The developers of today's title have made excellent use of what is quite possibly the world's most iconic duo in history. By controlling both the cursor and the main protagonist, you are successfully operating a bow and arrow. In today's humble opinion, we're popping pills in Fran Bow. Alright guys, buckle up because today's gonna get weird. We're not talking your average run-of-the-mill weird here, we're talking kinda weird. Fran Bow is a surreal and eerie psychological horror point-and-click adventure game developed and published by Kill Monday Games AB. And while I'm not quite sure what AB stands for, I can only assume that they want to kill Monday because they've simply run out of other things to kill. You play as the titular character Fran Bow, a recently orphaned girl who witnessed the brutal murder of her parents and subsequently went into traumatic shock before awakening in a mental health institute. As you might imagine, she proves to be something of an unreliable narrator. The gimmick of the game is that she pops a bunch of red pills that allow her to see into the world of crazy people usually tap into. You know, complete with shadow people, death, and Silent Hill. Only later on the weird shit starts happening when you haven't taken your medicine, which makes things pretty spooky. But you can't be a pussy about it because this girl has all the pussy she can handle. Wait guys, I meant the cat. She's got a cat. I wasn't... Oh... As with most point-and-click adventure games, I don't want to dwell too much on the story itself, as I feel like it would give it all away, but what I can say is that it has some distinct strengths and weaknesses. Much like that tall, brooding gentleman in the trench coat, its strongest selling point is the air of mystery surrounding it. The art style, the characters, the off-the-wall creepiness that seeps from every nook and cranny have a habit of keeping you wondering what's going to come next, and because of the otherworldly mechanics, every place has a couple of different atmospheres that interact with one another in odd ways. However, also much like Mr. Trenchcoat, once you get a little deeper in, you find out that he's a little all over the place, tries a little too hard, and he won't stop asking for kisses, which rubs you the wrong way. The story is also its greatest weakness, because after the first couple of chapters, things really start to get out there. And it stops being out there in the creepy way, and honestly just starts being out there in the out there kind of way. You start to wonder if the developers actually knew what the hell they were doing half the time. What starts out as an intense portrayal of what could conceivably be the struggles of being a part of the mental health system rapidly dissipates into a bunch of produce that are way too philosophical for their own good. It's like what would happen if VeggieTales smoked way too much pot. As much as I tend to appreciate symbolism, allegory, and metaphor, I can never be certain that that's actually what's being gone for here. The closest thing that I can approximate is that it's the degradation of a little girl's feeble mind as she struggles with the side effects of her new medication at the beginning, and that everything else is representative of her subconscious on some level, but there's never anything concrete. It's far too vague for my tastes. On top of that, there are a few things that are thrown in there in a way that just kind of makes you ask why. The guard is a creepy pedophile. Why? Was it to make you feel less bad for burning his junk with a scalding hot coffee? What's this robot rabbit for? Is there a reason that this thing is a beetle and a pig? Surely these things must have purpose. You can't just have your symbolism muddled with the random elements for the sake of being quirky or controversial. It kind of uproots your efforts. Get it? Uproots? Like a walking tree? Oh, fuck you. Fran Bow is normally on the Steam store for the price of $14.99, but that feels a tad bit on the steep side for me. The art is beautiful and there's a lot of interesting things about it, but it still doesn't come across as something I'd be willing to spend more than $10 on. It'd be even better for you, especially if you're not quite sold on the concept, to wait for it to go on sale for as low as $5.99 to give it a shot. There are definitely worse ways to spend an afternoon. Gameplay for Fran Bow earns a 7 out of 10. I'd give it a lot of flack for its inconsistency, but at the end of the day, it's successful in that it's compelling. It makes you want to solve the problems and move forward through the game, if only to know what happens next, which is fitting considering its mild hang-up when it comes to the subject of curiosity. Though I feel like the story kind of falls apart after what I would consider a pretty powerful start, it still manages to hold on, and it even offers some challenging and well thought out puzzles. There's never a point where an object is overt about what it's going to be used for in the future, nor is there a puzzle where the solution just doesn't make any sense. And with the inclusion of the navigational eyes in most places, they even managed to solve a few of the slow pacing with point and click games. So at least there's that. However, the intermediary games that are kind of different from the rest of the game serve to slow down the pacing and I think were poor choices, or at least poorly executed. Value scores a little higher with an 8 out of 10. Most of its points come from the theme, which greatly sets it apart from many of the other titles we've seen thus far. We've had a couple of horror games, but none quite reach the levels of creepiness that Fran Bow offers. Nor does Fran Bow rely on jump scares to create the atmosphere of apprehension. Unfortunately though, it is one of many point-and-click adventure games that we've received, and in some ways is reminiscent of them. But it's still not enough that it's becoming overly stale though, thankfully. With a composite score of 7.5 out of 10, Fran Bow earns a solid B. It's pretty good, but by no means perfect, though the game itself is definitely interesting enough in its art style and concept to experience for yourself.